in culture today, there's a lot of bosses and a lot of managers and a lot of toxicity, and we're seeing so many people resign and try to find work that matters with leaders who care. And so we want to go over some of these telltale signs of bad leadership that you see out there that you see leaders fall for.
So as I've been in leadership, looking at the traps people fall into pretty often, and it's interesting, people hit it at different points in their career. Sometimes people reach a peak and a new struggle comes along for them, or a bad habit seeps in and festers. And so one of the big things that I see leaders sometimes get over time, especially successful leaders, is pride. Pride is a real hard issue that leaders face. And when they let pride sink in, it has a lot of horrible, horrible effects downstream in their life and in their business and in their team and the culture. And so some of those, for example, is if you're prideful, if a leader thinks really highly of themselves, they're not going to think highly of others. They're not going to treat others with the same respect and dignity that they may have previously done. They'll also not be interested in learning from their team or the people around them. When someone's really prideful, I've seen them really fail to ask for people's input, ask for their perspective, and just be constantly learning. Jason Williams, who's the vice president of EntreLeadership, one of the things I love the most about him and that has made him so successful is he's so eager to learn. He is so genuinely interested in the people around him and getting their perspectives and growing all the time. He's so hungry. And that's one of the things I see most successful leaders have is that hunger to learn and to grow. And oftentimes successful leaders, they reach that pinnacle, they grow and grow and grow, and they think that they've made it. They think they're at the top, and they think they've learned all they need to learn, and that's just unfortunately wrong. The world changes, people change, and we have to continue to learn, adapt, gain perspective.
So the antidote to that is humility. And
Exactly.
The best leaders, and as I look around, they all have this trait. And a lot of, in culture today, we look at humility as a weakness and as something that you shouldn't have. You should be confident. And we want you to be confident, but humility is not, thinking less of yourself. It's just thinking of yourself less and asking for that input and going, you know what? I don't know. And maybe I don't have the best idea in the room. And so that's a huge piece that leaders need to work on.
Yeah, humility is massive. And so learning new things also humbles you. One of my coach, his name's George, he often challenges me to put myself
Not me, by the way, just for listeners out there.
That's right. It's a different guy. He challenges me to put myself in situations where I'm not good at, or things that will naturally frustrate me, because it not only it helps me adapt and grow and overcome, but it also keeps you humble. Like when you're constantly putting yourself in different situations where you don't have it all figured out, it does humble you. And so it's really good to check yourself and to be humble.
And that's one of those things, if you're the team member, we all want to look up to a leader who has that humility, and that's going to trickle down to the rest of the team. We don't want to create a whole team of prideful people, because that's what we see the model is. So this is super important long-term for building culture as well.
That's right.
So other than pride, what's another sign you've seen of just poor leadership?
One of the hardest things to do, and this is something I've really struggled with over the years, is my ability to create clarity for the team or clarity for myself. And what I mean by clarity is not only just communication and communicating well, but it's being really clear on what our team members are responsible for. What am I responsible for? What is the lane that I should be driving? And then same with the team. I can look at each individual and they know what their priorities are. They know the expectations I have for them. They know what they're responsible for driving. And that helps them be a better teammate. That helps them focus on the right things and say no to things that they shouldn't be focused on. And so clarity is always something that goes away quickly unless you continue to maintain it. And there's been a lot of times, and right now I'm having to double down on adding clarity to where we're going and the things we're working on and the things we should be focused on. And so I have to do that for myself. It's easy just to focus on others and think about the team and what they need, but I have to also create that clarity for myself of, hey, what should I be focused my time on? Georgia, I don't know about you, but oftentimes during just the go of business throughout the week, I'll look up towards the end of the week and I'm like, what did I do? What did I accomplish?
Just everything happened to me.
That's right. And so one of the questions I try to ask myself every day is, what's my number one thing? What's the number one thing I need to knock out today to make the business move forward? And so by doing that for myself, by doing that with my team, I'm creating clarity on where we focus and what's the biggest impact I can have.
And there's a direct connection there. If the leader has a lack of clarity, then the team definitely has a lack of clarity. And your team craves that clarity. Everyone wants to know what winning looks like, what they need to do to get there, have those expectations set. And yes, that comes down to very clear, open, frequent communication, but it also comes down to things like key results areas and putting things down on paper so that we can all look back with accountability and go, this is what we agreed on.
One of my favorite tools we have at Ramsey is a KRA, exactly what we were describing, key result areas. We've done a podcast on that before. We'll do another one again soon, I'm sure. I love talking about key result areas because it is clarity on paper.
And we always say to be unclear is to be unkind. And our friend Donald Miller says, you confuse, you lose. And that's more on the branding side, but it applies. No one wants to be confused. That's where mistakes are going to happen, failure is going to happen. No one's going to see amazing results in the midst of confusion and chaos. So this is a huge one to get a handle of. So what's your last one here? Telltale sign of bad leadership.
The last point I would make is fear. Fear is something that I see creep into leaders and has a huge, horrible effect on the team and the morale and the culture. And so I see this come, again, like pride. Sometimes it seeps in later in someone's career. Sometimes it's something that someone's more naturally they struggle with. And so, Dave, one of our core values at our company is fear not. And he exemplifies this so well of pushing through decisions and not letting fear negatively impact a decision. Now, sometimes fear causes you to take a step back and wisely discern and get perspective on a situation. And that's not what Dave's talking about when he says fear not, or when our core value states that. But I see fear, what it causes negatively is it causes leaders to slow down too much. They become paralyzed. They don't make decisive decisions. They don't move forward in a meaningful, intentional way. They just kind of wait for things to happen. I also see fear create where leaders are unwilling to embrace change. If they're afraid, they're not going to embrace how the environment around them is changing, or things that their customers may be asking of them, or maybe a marketing campaign isn't as effective as it used to be, and so we need to create a new strategy. I've seen leaders resist change because they're afraid. They're comfortable with what they know. And so if you as a leader can really focus on, hey, check yourself, am I letting fear cause me to not move at the speed I would normally move at? And really make sure you're not allowing it to negatively impact you.
Yeah, this is a tough one, especially because the team is looking to you for confidence. And if they sense fear, if they smell fear, they're going to then go, oh my gosh, the leader doesn't have this under control. So how do you communicate to to the team with vulnerability where you go, listen, I don't really know what the next step is, but I know how we're going to make that decision. How do you communicate that?
Yeah, so there's oftentimes the team asks questions of me, or I get up in front of the team and give them an update, and I don't have a clear answer of what's next, or I don't have a clear answer to the problem, like a solution to the problem. And it is really good and healthy as a leader to admit that and just acknowledge that you don't have it all figured out in front of the team. Now, what's dangerous, and we talked about this on a previous episode, what's dangerous is when you don't actually show your team that you're doing what you can to solve that, or to get the answers, or to create a solution. And so it's fine. I think it's really healthy to get up in front of your team and admit that you don't know the answer, but then you need to follow up and show that you're committed to figuring out what that answer is. And so that's both through your words and through your actions. And so if you're not following up with them soon with the answer, or following up with them soon of, hey, here's what we're doing to figure it out. Hey, we're taking this action, this action, this action to help us learn more so we can make a decision. That goes so far with the team when they see you do that and you actually live out what you're saying in front of them.
Yeah, and that's where things like core values and frameworks and processes really come into play, because it gives you a foundation to where you go, okay, we're not just going to wander through this fear. We have a way to navigate this with our leadership team, or for myself as a leader. So what is the antidote to fear as you've experienced it?
Wow, that's deep, George.
We can't just wish it, we can pray and do all kinds of great things, but how do you actually push through that and make the right decision?
I think you have to believe that there's a solution, or believe that there's something on the other side. And so, there's been plenty of seasons where we've had a problem and you don't see light at the end of the tunnel. You don't know what the solution is to getting over that obstacle. But if you look at an obstacle, you look at a challenge with a healthy level of intensity of saying, hey, I don't know how we're going to solve this, but I'm committed to figuring it out. I think that confidence, that eagerness, that wanting to dive in and see a problem as an opportunity really can go a long way and help you. You may feel fear, and fear is natural. It's a natural feeling. It's okay to experience fear. It's not okay to make decisions based on it. It's not okay to slow down, or to be paralyzed by fear. You should continue to move forward. You may continue forward more cautiously, and that's okay. But as long as you're moving forward and taking steps in the right direction, it's okay. You'll push through that fear.
Yeah. And, that's a contagious feeling. And so if you're feeling that fear and that's kind of now spreading amongst the team, that's going to create gossip. It's going to create a lot of terrible things. And so there is a level of optimism you need to have as a leader that isn't, unfounded. You're not just going, everything's going to be fine while the ship is burning. But there is a level of calm and optimism that you need to relay to the team that instills hope in them.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly.
So how do we get to the point where we can't master these? It's something you have to work on every single day. Like you said, this can seep in. If you've been a leader for 20 years, it could happen today. Pride, lack of clarity, and fear. How do you make sure that you're protecting yourself from falling into one of those traps?
I think it's just being aware that there are traps you could fall into. I think simply you checking yourself on a regular basis or taking time to get above the business and look down and assess your own performance, assess your own, hey, how am I really doing as a leader? How's my team really receiving me? If you can be honest with yourself and look in and do that hard work, then you can really see if those things are becoming an issue for you.